Hey lovelies! So, as you can probably tell, I am a very feminine feminist. I like colour, I like pink, I like makeup. I just like nice things in general that are typically what you may call stereotypically feminine. And I can cook, clean and sew because I'm a functioning adult who knows how to take care of herself. I'm just putting it out there. Those are basic life skills that everyone should have. But like, I am like the other girls, so I can't be smart, right? I mean, obviously, I don't even have like a piece of paper behind me that shows I'm qualified to talk about anything. I've got something that says stay magical. Wow, great. So obviously I can't have anything of value to say, nor can anyone else that presents themselves in any feminine way at all. This video is talking about femmephobia and the issues it causes for society as a whole and the absolute dangers of it. Now I do want to put in here the fact that this is a very deep topic that we're getting into. It's a very dark topic that we're getting into, and there is a massive trigger warning across this whole video because your mental health is more important than a view on my video. I really do appreciate it if you are watching this, but at the same time I've got other content which is not going to trigger you in any way. We're talking about sexual harassment, we're talking about rape, we're talking about LGBTQIA+ rights. Of course, all of my sources are listed down below, and because of the nature of this video, I'm also going to be linking resources for those of you who may be in need of help as well. Basically, the structure of this whole video is we're starting off light, and then we're going to get into the deeper underbellies and where everything can go to. So I'll be having trigger warning timings throughout this, so that you're aware of it. If I see any abuse in the comments because of the topic of this video and because of the things that we're discussing, I am going to delete you, block you and report you. I'm trying to do this from an educational standpoint, and I'm trying to help people with the content that I'm creating here. We have no time for trolls. So feminine interests are not important. Creating art, the languages, people skills, looking after people, caring for animals, fashion, sewing, makeup, dancing, the arts, drama, acting, singing. Whatever gets identified as a feminine interest is also identified as not important, a way to fill time, not essential. I mean, just look at the UK's attitude to the arts, and basically just something that doesn't actually have to take up anyone's time and space and doesn't really carry much value. And of course, most of all, below men. They're kind of seen as like filler roles, like not necessarily important in society, but like society would also crumble without them. Oh, and also cleaning. We have to put in cleaning in that, even though it's not a feminine interest, it still gets characterized as a feminine interest. Like having things organized and clean is seen as a feminine thing to do. I don't know about everyone else, but like having a functioning space is actually just a logical thing, and that's typically a masculine trait. So like these sort of traditional feminine females are typically portrayed as like the antagonists in like feminine or traditionally feminine media, even in like regular media. So like these types of women are deemed to be like the villains and the selfish ones, the vapid ones, the ones that are just clomping around in high heels, like thinking that they're better than everyone. And it's like, well, that's not really the case. You're just showing feminine traits, and automatically that's a signifier for bad stuff, even though people do want women to be feminine. So you get like these very weird mixed messages. It's like you have to be like not like the other girls. At least in the era that I grew up in, you had to be like not like the other girls in order to be a good acceptable girl that people would like, and especially guys would like. Or at least guys would like for a long time, because they would typically use these more feminine girls as throwaway, which is definitely a topic that we'll get to later. So it shows that star females as like the main protagonist are typically always seen as like girly shows, and this is something that has just been the trait for like ever. But then when there is a male protagonist, that is seen as accessible to everyone, because everyone can of course relate to a man's perspective of complete power over everyone else. And so of course there is still this perception that femininity is dumb, and the people that project it are like seen as weaker, seen as less than. I know that we've got movies like Miss Congeniality that tried to like prove that was not the point, but I can make a whole video about Miss Congeniality. I can make a whole video about all sorts of movies. If you want me to do a movie series, I will happily do that. But the thing is, like with the fact that feminine people typically are shown to be like more docile, stupid, whatever you want to call it, when it comes down to male characters possessing these sorts of like traits, then they're seen as like less of a threat. Now Dream Sounds actually did a fantastic video on this. I'll actually link it down below as well because it's really good. But then of course we've still got the trope that people that actually use femininity are using it as a weapon, and it's mischanneled, and the fact that they shouldn't be feminine to begin with. So you think back to one of the greatest films of all time, Mean Girls. Regina George, at the end of it, she's actually way less feminine, and she's like into sports now, and so then that makes her a good person because she managed to channel her rage. And of course it has to be in a stereotypically masculine way. It's not actually in a feminine way at all, because, you know, masculine interests are better, clearly, because otherwise how can we deal with our rage in other ways? Maybe stop patronizing us. I don't know, that would make me a lot more happy. I'm just gonna put it out there. So this also affects heteronormative people and masculine people as well. I mean, oh my god, do any of you remember the fact that we coined the term metrosexual in the noughties to actually call men that actually showered something, because that was so out of the ordinary to have a man that actually knew how to coordinate clothes. But I mean, like, they're not gay, they're like a gay man, but they're straight. What a time to be forming like your brain. I was, what, in 2000 I was like 11, so we were taught a lot of screwed up things in the 2000s. I'm just putting it out there. I'm very grateful that we've moved on from that rubbish today. Well, for people that identify as men, differentiation from the norm still gets you in a lot of trouble. Like, just look at what happened with Harry Styles wearing a dress thing. Like, the whole internet goes ablaze. Unless you're capitalizing on a feminine interest and using it in a masculine way, like cooking, for example, just look at Gordon Ramsay. Or you're a tortured artist who is a bit of a piece of scum, like Picasso. You have to be like a real man's man who eats meat, likes to kill things, and does your own woodworking, because woodworking is definitely masculine, because women can't possibly whittle. Basically, if you cannot over-masculinize and therefore legitimize a feminine interest, your class as a male is devalued too. This is also weird to me because, like, okay, so obviously I like the beauty space a lot, but it's quite interesting how we've had men kind of like be easily able to prop up and go up in the rankings in terms of influencer status very, very easily and quickly, and they're fully legitimized for it. But this is a stereotypically feminine space, you know, like, but then they're still at the top of it. So regardless, it's like, a man has legitimized something, so we're all comfortable with watching a man put on makeup. Like, I've said it many times in the past, I think that everyone should be allowed to express themselves in whatever way you want. I think that makeup should be for everyone, and it is a form of artistic expression, so I'm not devaluing that. What I'm saying is it's really interesting that we've had these men able to actually go up in the ranks and be happy up in this higher point in life in a feminine role. Meanwhile, there's female creators that are still way lower than them, even though they've been working at it for longer or whatever. Like, it just feels more legitimized when there's a man doing it. That's all I'm putting out there. Feminine roles are expected, not respected and paid for. Let's just have a look at unpaid work in households and who does the most of it in a couple. Now, this is obviously from a study which is published in the New York Times, I believe, and of course very heteronormative, so it's typically straight people. Well, it is definitely straight people that we're dealing with here. Hopefully one day studies will learn to be more inclusive with relationships. Oh my god, even things like polyamorous people. Wow, imagine that. So, again, from a heteronormative lens, typically it's the female in the relationship that is doing more than the male around the house. And this is still kind of to be expected. So in the US, from this study, you've got 4 hours a day for a female to be doing household stuff and 2.5 hours for a man. Now, of course, there's things like childcare and all that sort of stuff that comes into it as well, and still stereotypically it's the woman that stays home with the child. I do understand that breastfeeding is a thing, so sometimes it definitely does work for people better that way. But, you know, I'm just highlighting the fact that we do still have women that are doing more work. Like, for example, I can even say this in my relationship. It's definitely been the case that over the course of, like, our relationship, we've been together for 8 years? 2013. Yeah, it's 8 years. And so stereotypically I've done more around the house. And it's like, it's okay, we form our own balance, whatever, like every relationship is different. But like, there is still an expectation, I feel, for women to actually know how to do all of these skills, even though everyone is obviously a fully grown adult and you should be able to cook, clean and take care of yourself, and obviously know how to do some washing and don't have to be told what to do. But of course, as a woman, if you can't be like Snow White and cook, clean, sew, do all of that stuff, and of course make a home, then you're not really worthy of marriage. Also, Snow White was 14. There are definite expectations in a relationship for women that do differ to men. So of course women are not being paid to do this stuff, which they are expected to do. And you're a bad wife, a bad person, you're never going to land a man if you don't know how to do this stuff. It's almost like people get viewed with a lens of like continual adolescence if they don't know how to cook, clean, wash and sew and do whatever. But the thing is, like, if it's the man that doesn't know how to cook, it's like, oh, it's okay, he'll marry someone that knows how to. Oh, they can't look after themselves, can they? Oh, this is why they need us. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those like, oh, we shrug it off joke things. But it absolutely does affect people. And it also affects like the men as well, because the thing is, like, because they don't have these life skills, or decided that it wasn't important enough for them to have these life skills, it makes them have to be dependent on the female. But then of course the female has to do all of this stuff as well on top of working full-time, etc. So I'm just pointing at a little bit of hypocrisy here because we've got this like status quo in place. Of course, like, the rhetoric is changing around this, but like gender norms are very sticky and hard to shake. It's just like, no matter how hard you try, it's just like, come on. Oh, and also women are stigmatized against for having to be the ones to breed your children. I'm just putting it out there, the burden is on us for so much. And then of course we have to dress a certain way, otherwise we ask for it. Just sorry, I get a bit riled up about these sorts of topics. Let's discuss male views and activities, because they are the norm. Think about it. You've got logic, you've got reasoning, you've got politics, you've got mathematics, you've got the stock market, you've got engineering, you've got all these things that require facts and cold hard logic, and of course science, oh my gosh, and of course power tools and using ladders in dangerous ways, like the real important stuff in life, you know? This stuff is valuable. Emotions are overrated, they get in the way of business, and of course of the fishing trip. These are all stereotypically masculine, on about using things like brute strength, logic, cold hard reasoning without consideration for the holistic view. Bigger issue is women that choose to work in these fields have to conform to men. They have to make comfort for the men in this space who already exist. They're the ones that have to put up with the very sexist posters that are objectifying women. They're the ones that have to put up with the fact that people are like, oh, well, we don't want to get another toilet put in for you. Well, then you want just about like a toilet for everyone, which should actually be fine. But of course, conservative people don't like the fact that anyone can actually use a public bathroom. They also have to undergo harassment, risk of sexual assault, and weirdly sometimes being attacked by other women because of things like internalized misogyny. Now, internalized misogyny is something that I've talked about in other videos as well, which I will just link up here because it's a very common thread that runs through a lot of our lives. So here's a quick trigger warning for you, and I may edit this out, but when I was sexually harassed, straight afterwards there was a conversation with a woman that I worked with who said, well, if you can't handle working in a man's world, then don't work here. You have to be able to handle this. And that was almost more disgusting than what actually happened. And it's like, it runs so deep in the way that we've been taught to think. It's dangerous, which is of course where we're leading to. Things are changing, but all you need to do is look at in the Marvel interviews. Like, I think that everyone knows and saw like the questions that Scarlett was getting in comparison to her male co-stars, and her male co-stars stood up for her. This is the sort of stuff that we need, and I'm glad it was applauded at the time. I know this is a few years ago, but like this sort of stuff is still happening now, and I'm like, it's 2021. Information moves so fast that it's like, how is this stuff not hitting people? Like, you're on social media. What kind of weird echo chamber are you in that you don't know about, like, how to actually have a conversation with a woman that isn't just about her body and the underwear that she's wearing? The male gaze is normal. Patriarchy is normal. Hierarchy is normal. Questioning these things is being a disruptor, which is trying to challenge the norms that have been carefully put in place and curated for many, many years. And it's like people get blacklisted for it. People have their careers ruined for it. Now, we've had both men and women stand up for these sorts of causes, but it's still seen as like being disrespectful of your elders. It's still seen as like being disrespectful to the status quo, and it's like you should be grateful that you're even here to begin with. And it's like, well, you can be grateful for what you've got, but then also ask for more and want things to improve, not just for yourself but for others. You know, like, why? I don't know why that sort of rhetoric is around. It's like, you should, and be grateful. You know, it's just like, wow, that thing from Anastasia. But yeah, when people are questioning like why these things happen or whatever, they're told to stay in their lane. I've definitely been told that. Just because you haven't gone through a traditional method of getting educated doesn't mean that people are not smart in other ways. Also, not everything has quantifiable data. Sometimes you need to have qualitative data instead, which actually requires a lot more EQ and a lot more soft skills, as you would put it, to be able to actually take this stuff apart and be able to analyze it and then find out like the information from it, because feminine skills are actually skills. Now, of course, I probably have to put a disclaimer out there that I'm not on about all men. I mean, like, I'm married. Like I said, we've been together for like 8 years. Like, obviously, I don't think that. What I'm saying is, like, the status quo is that the male view, the male gaze, all of that stuff is normative. Anything else is disruptive. And why are you just being a troublemaker? Why can't you just work in the world that you live in? Why ask for more? Ugh, rude. If you are gay or bi or anywhere on the non-binary scale, then a lot of people have had to hide that for many years and able to actually be able to get a job, which is horrible, horrific. All of those things are seen as like more feminine and able to be taken advantage of and threatened, which we're about to get into. This is where we get like actually dark. Because of course differentiation to the norm is a threat to the patriarchy, which has been in place for many years. Females are a target for acquisition and control. Again, from now on is a trigger warning part. I will just put it out there for you so that if you do not feel like you're able to talk about these topics, you can click away. Billie Eilish, Millie Bobby Brown, Bad Baby, all were children that people couldn't wait to be able to over-sexualize, and were literally having countdown parties until they turned 18 when they were allowed to jerk off to them. These children have been sexualized as a form of control. You control them with systems that have separated them from birth, which creates an otherdom where boys are treated differently to girls, and vice versa. And of course, there's just two. You take a woman's virginity. You buy them by getting them a gift or getting them dinner, and the expectation is that you're gonna get sex in return for that, of course, because you're entitled to, because that's the price that you paid. This is like, your body is worth like $50. You wouldn't want to pay them directly because you don't want to whore, but like, you definitely earned it from like not only like the hard-earned money that you kindly spent on them, but just because like you're paying attention to them. That's a privilege. You belittle them by focusing only on physical aspects of youth and beauty. You bully males from birth for having feminine interests, confirming that there is only one right way to be. Objectify them by having different stances of dress for them in movies, games, and TV shows. You beat them with conversion therapy to make them normal. You categorize them and rank them like movies. You belittle them and make them the butt of the joke just for being gay in media. You buy their skills as sex workers and demean them and diminish them, calling them a whore because they no longer fit the Madonna trope. You feel entitled to their bodies and affection because that's what media has taught you time and again. And this has been taught for your whole life, and when you don't receive it, you feel shortchanged. You feel like you're owed something. You film them with or without their consent because you know that releasing that could destroy their entire careers and their whole lives. Because you know that women are not allowed to be sexual and respected at the same time. You attack a trans man for tricking you. You kill them because sex workers are not valuable, they're not respectable, and they've taken something from you which should be owed to you. Or at least what I've just been discussing is the evolution of what femmephobia can actually do. And sadly, it's very easy for people to fall down these sorts of mindsets and go from one step to the next step to the next step, literally because our society has been set up in this way that creates a staircase that is very easy to follow, especially with the benefits that come from the internet. Whilst it's a great thing, it's allowed people to connect with other people that think the same way as them, that also feel as entitled as them, that also feel like things need to change, that also feel like women owe them something for simply existing. The root cause of all of this is femmephobia, violence and entitlement to female bodies. All of this leads me to my final part, that femmephobia kills. Too many people have been hurt, harmed, harassed, sexually assaulted, raped, killed, simply because they're feminine. Trans people are at risk, gay people are at risk, feminine people are at risk. And of course, your likelihood of being at risk and attacked is much higher if you're BIPOC as well. This is why we have to normalise individuality, freedom of expression, freedom of creation of any sort. We have to normalise the fact that not everyone fits into these little tiny conformist boxes that we've decided to construct as a society for so many generations. We have to work on stopping that gender norming from actually forming and allow people to be who they actually want to be freely and expressly. Stereotypically masculine and feminine interests are valid for all, and all of those interests are entirely valid as well. Femininity is not stupid. It is the creation of art, but it's the creation of life on this planet. It's the creation of understanding and of empathy, all of which are incredibly important for us to uphold. None of us are actually made to fit into boxes. We're just forced to by society because that is just the way it always has been. Letting people enjoy what they want to enjoy, as long as they're not harming themselves or others, as far as it's practical and possible, because like I said before, no one can be an ethical consumer, but that's a separate side note which I'll just link up here. Just let people do what makes them happy. Honestly, I think that the whole world would be really surprised at what we'd actually be able to do if we don't have hate as the main emotion. And obviously, hate originates a lot of the time from fear of understanding, from fear of change, from fear of the fact that they don't understand why these people are the way they are. Have a conversation. Not everyone is the same. It's okay to think differently. It's okay to present differently. I really wanted to have this chat because I've seen a lot of laws come into place around America, and I've just seen a lot of attacks happening on people, like we all have. So I was just motivated to actually highlight the fact that we've got issues at all levels, starting from the light-hearted, starting from the ways that we're raised, and how it can actually progress. I just wanted to create this, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you did make it all the way to the end, please leave any coloured heart, because we accept love of all kinds, as long as it's consensual, of course, and between consenting adults where there's no weird power dynamic, because that's just been a thing. I'm sorry if this has been an emotional toll. I would say watch something light-hearted after this. You don't need to always subject yourself to educational content that is quite heavy. It's always important to take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, all of that good stuff. Maybe go out in nature, maybe just unplug if you need to be able to digest this stuff, because I know this is quite a heavy topic. I'm actually probably gonna do some cleaning because I need to clean the house. It's ironic given what we were talking about before, but I actually have to. So there we go. Thank you lovelies so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you lovelies next Tuesday with a new video, maybe on Sunday with a review. Who knows? It's all happening. If you like this rose pink in my hair, by the way, this was gifted to me from Tints of Nature. This is the rose gold colour, and I've used 2 boxes of it on my hair. I've already done other videos where I've dyed my hair literally on this channel, so you can see how it works. So there you go. The children are back. I have to shut off my fresh air. How dare you! Always worried I've got lipstick on my teeth.